Every analyst said it would fail. Every headline predicted another empty summit, and every single one of them was wrong. What happened in Beijing over the last 48 hours wasn't just a diplomatic meeting, it was a masterclass in strategic patience, a calculated move that just permanently altered Canada's position on the global stage. Tonight, we'll decode the agreement no one saw coming and reveal how this single visit has rewritten the rulebook for middle powers everywhere. They told us the freeze would last forever. For 8 long years, Canada-China relations existed in a state of suspended animation. The diplomatic deep freeze that began with the arrest of a tech executive and the retaliatory detention of 2 Canadians seemed like a permanent fixture. Agricultural exports vanished under punitive tariffs. Ministerial talks went silent. The world's assumption was cemented. Ottawa had become a permanent satellite in Washington's orbit, unable and unwilling to act on its own. Washington viewed the stalemate as proof of loyalty. Beijing saw it as proof of irrelevance. Both were reading from an old script, one that reality was about to tear up. So, what changed? How did we go from a decade of silence to a cascade of agreements in a single day? The answer isn't luck. It's architecture. While American foreign policy oscillated between public threats and chaotic confrontation, a different kind of work was happening in quiet diplomatic channels. Technical teams, working-level officials, months, perhaps years, of unseen, unglamorous groundwork. This wasn't a spontaneous thaw. This was a trapdoor carefully constructed and waiting for the right moment to open. Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't arrive in Beijing with a begging bowl. He arrived with a cabinet. The presence of multiple senior ministers, energy, foreign affairs, industry, wasn't for ceremonial photos. It was a coordinated signal, a statement of serious intent delivered not in words, but in personnel. The message to Beijing's leadership was unmistakable. We are here to negotiate as a sovereign equal, not as a subordinate seeking scraps. And Beijing listened. What emerged from the first day of substantive talks shattered every low expectation. Instead of vague promises, they signed a framework for comprehensive energy cooperation. It covers traditional oil and gas, liquefied natural gas, and the frontiers of clean tech and critical minerals. They restored high-level ministerial dialogue for the first time in nearly a decade. They agreed to an economic roadmap with concrete, actionable steps. This wasn't incremental progress. The Canadian industry minister chose his words with precision. We are now in a new era of partnership. Era. In the lexicon of diplomacy, that word is nuclear. It signals a fundamental reset, not a minor adjustment. But let's address the complication everyone is thinking about. The tariffs. The devastating agricultural levies on canola, pork, and seafood that have crippled prairie farmers remain. So, is this breakthrough just empty words while the real economic pain continues? Here is where context is everything and where Canadian strategy reveals its depth. The tariffs were retaliation, China's response after Canada chose to match American duty levels on Chinese steel and EVs to protect its own industries. Ottawa made a hard choice, align with Washington on a specific defensive trade action, but absolutely refused to let that action define the entire relationship. They absorbed the retaliatory blow. They endured the political pressure, and crucially, they kept the diplomatic channel open. Now, in Beijing, the Saskatchewan Premier is in the room for high-level talks. His presence is a direct signal that agriculture is on the table. The official language is deliberately careful, continuing and productive talks, which, in diplomatic code, means progress is being made even if a final deal isn't announced today. This is the patient middle ground where actual statecraft happens, far from the theatrical ultimatums that dominate headlines. The strategic logic behind the energy deal is what makes it so significant. China craves energy security, seeking to diversify away from volatile regions. Canada offers vast, stable resources and a predictability that superpower rivals cannot. American energy exports come wrapped in political weaponization. Canadian exports can be just that, exports. Commercial, reliable, and depoliticized. But it goes beyond fossil fuels. Canada's reserves of lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements are the building blocks of China's green energy future. Prime Minister Carney didn't just meet with Chinese ministers, he sat down with the CEO of KTL, the world's battery giant. These aren't photo ops. They are supply chain negotiations. So what is the real, unspoken game being played here? For generations, Canadian trade was a binary trap. Manage the American relationship and hope for the best. When the US and China clashed, Canada was collateral damage with no exit. Mark Carney is systematically dismantling that trap. He is building a third option, strategic autonomy in a multipolar world. During his meeting, he told the Chinese premier, this progress helps position both nations for the new world order. That phrase is not accidental. It is a declaration. Canada is no longer content to be a rule taker. It intends to be a rulemaker, a stabilizing architect in a fractured system. Let's trace the timeline, because the sequence proves this was all by design. Late 2024, Canada matches US tariffs, triggering Chinese retaliation. Spring 2025, Carney takes office, makes diversification a core pledge. The unseen diplomatic machinery begins to turn. Early 2026, the Beijing visit is announced to widespread skepticism. Mid-January 2026, the breakthrough. This is the reward for strategic patience, for enduring short-term pain while meticulously building the foundation for a long-term shift. The ultimate victory here may not be a specific contract. It is a perceptual one. Beijing no longer views Ottawa as an American proxy. It sees Canada as a serious, independent player worthy of its own bilateral channel. That change in perception is everything. It grants Canada real leverage, not just with China, but finally with Washington as well. It creates options where none existed. This is the prototype for the 21st century middle power. Not neutral, but nimble. Not defiant, but deliberately independent. Building diverse partnerships based on national interest, not ideological obligation. European and Asian capitals are watching. They see Canada charting a viable path between superpowers, achieving through professional statecraft what others fail to win through bluster. The old order of monolithic alliances is cracking. The new world is being written by those who prepare, who engage, and who patiently build. And as of today, Canada has just secured a seat at the drafting table. If you appreciate deep dives into the real strategies shaping our world, hit the like button. It helps the channel Wines of Thought bring you more content like this. The global chessboard is being reset. We'll be here to analyze every move.